Hello Divi Nation and welcome. In today's tutorial, I'll be showing you step by step how to indirectly apply Divi section dividers into your design. So this is what we're aiming to achieve in today's tutorial. So this is a two-part mini series. So without wasting a lot of time, let's get started with part 1. So right now I'm logged into my WordPress admin dashboard. The first thing I'm going to do is to start by creating a brand new page. So I'm going to come over here to pages and click on add new. Right, so let's call this page Divi Section Dividers. Click on use the Divi Builder, and then we're going to go straight to the Visual Builder. Next, we're going to add a background color to our section. So I'm going to come over here to my section settings, click on background, and then we're going to click this plus button to add our background color. So I'm going to paste my hexadecimal value in here. Now, if you want to use the exact same values as I'm using throughout this tutorial, I will leave a link to our post in the show notes below. Right, so that's our background color. So the next thing we need to do is to add our divider style. So I'm going to come here to design, and then I'm going to click on dividers. So we're going to start off with the top divider. So this one is already selected, and I'm going to click here and choose our style. And the style I'm going to go with is this one right here. I'm going to select it. Now over here on the divider height, we need to set specific values. So for my desktop, I'm going to set this to 600. And then what I'm going to do is I'm also going to set the height for the tablet and the phones. So here on the little icon, I can come over here to my tablet and set this to 400. Now, this is important because on different devices, you want your dividers to look perfect. Okay, so the same thing goes with the smartphone as well. I'll set this to 400. Okay, and then back to the desktop. Now, over here on the divider arrangement, let's set this to underneath section content. So you need to make sure that it is set to this. So once you're done with all these settings, go ahead and save. In fact, there's one important thing that I forgot to do is to add the spacing. So let's go back into our section settings, click on design, spacing. So what we need to do now is to add some space on the top and on the bottom to make sure that our design is visible. So what I'm going to start by doing is to come over here to padding, and we're going to add 80 pixels to the top and 80 pixels to the bottom, like that. Next, we're going to come back over here to the dividers and give this divider a color. So I'm going to come over here to this eyedropper tool and paste my color in here. So now we have all our colors in place and everything seems perfect. Right, so let's move on and add a brand new row. So I'm going to save here for now. So I'm going to click this plus button here and take a look at my column structure. So I'm going to go ahead with these two equal columns like that. And let's go in and add our background color for our row. So I'm going to click this row settings icon, click on background, and I'm going to click this plus button, and then I'm going to paste my value over here. Now we need to make further customizations to our row settings. So let's click on design. So over here, we need to make this row full width. So I'm going to come over here to sizing, and then I'm going to activate, make this row full width. And then also here on equalize column height, we're going to set this to yes, so that when we add our content in this row, it all has the same height. Now it's time to add our spacing. So I'm going to click on the spacing, and then on the padding top, we're going to add 28. So here, I'm going to add 28. Next, we're going to go to the box shadow. So I'm going to come over here and we're going to choose this one right here. Now it's time to add our module. So let's start by adding an empty text module. So let's start off by saving this first. And then I'm going to click this plus button to add our module. So this is going to be a text module. I'm just going to search for it to make it easier for me to find it. And then I'm going to select my text module. So the first thing we're going to do with this text module is to add our background. So I'm going to come over here to background, click this plus button. Now the background I'm going to add is going to be an RGBA value. So to access that, I just need to slide this slider down a little bit so that we get the RGBA value over here. Otherwise, it will be hexadecimal. So I'm going to come over here between the brackets and paste my value. Okay, so that's what we need to do. So coming back over here to the text, I'm just going to get rid of the text in here like that. Now we need to make our text modules overlap our sections and rows. So to do that, we're going to add some values to our spacing. So I'm going to click on design spacing, and I'm going to start off with the top margin, and we're going to set this to -200 pixels. So on the right margin, I'm going to set this to 300. Left margin, we're going to set this to minus 300. And then the top padding, we're going to set this to 600. Next, we're going to go to our border. So I'm going to click here and we're going to set our border to 500. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to drag this until I get to 500, or because that value is quite large, I'm just going to type it in here like that. And now we can see that we have this shape that we've just created here. Now it's time to add our box shadow. So I'm going to come over here to click on box shadow, and we are going to choose this one right here like that. Right, so let's go ahead and save. The next thing we're going to do is to add another text module, and we're going to add some title text into that. So I'm going to click this plus button here, search for my text module, select it, and then we're going to add a title to this. So let me just delete all this, and this is going to be our title header. So I'm going to come over here, highlight it all, and assign H1 to this like that. Now we need to go and stylize this. So I'm going to click on design, heading text, and automatically we can see here that our heading 1 text has been selected by default, which is great. So now we need to add our font weight. So coming over here, I'm going to set this to ultra bold. We're going to set it to uppercase, and we are going to make sure that this text is white. So I'm going to select white like that. Now let's go to the text size. So over here, we need to set it to 82. So this is going to be the size for the desktop. So we need to add different sizes for the tablet and also for the smartphone. So I'm going to come over here on this little icon, and for the tablet tab, I'm going to set it to 60. Right, so I'm just going to type it in here, and then for the smartphone, I'm going to set it to 45 like that. So that looks great. And then we need to come over here to our text line height and set it to 1 EM. In fact, it's already set to 1 EM, which is great. Now, the only thing that we need to do here is to set the orientation to center. So I'm going to click that, and now it's centered. So back onto the desktop tab. Now we can see that our text is all the way down here at the bottom. So we need to raise it up a bit. So to do that, we need to add some spacing, and we're going to add some negative margin. So let me come over here and choose our spacing tab like that. And then for the margin, we're going to set this to minus 300. So now we can see that text has been pulled up, which is great. Okay, so let's go ahead and save. Next, we need to add another text module. So this one here is going to have our description text. So I'm going to click this plus button here to add our text module, search for it, and select it. Okay, so we already have our dummy text, which is great. So what I need to do now is to come to the design tab and then click on text. We're going to make sure our text is set to white. We want this centered, so let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to scroll down here on the text orientation, make sure that this is set to centered. Right, so next thing is our font weight needs to be set to light. So I'm going to come over here. So right now it's set to regular. Let's set it to light. Next, let's go to sizing, because right now we can see that this is all the way right to the edge. So we can customize this by going to the sizing. So I'm going to click here on sizing, and let's set our width to about 60%. So I'm going to slide it until I get to about 60%. And then I'm going to make sure that this is centered like that. So that looks much better now. Now it's time to go to the spacing. Right, so over here on the spacing, I'm going to add a margin top of 50 and a bottom margin of 100. So for the desktop, we can always go in and make some customizations as well. So I'm going to click this icon, and for the tablet, we're going to set this to 0. And this 0 only applies to the margin bottom. Okay, so that's great. So I'm going to go back to my desktop. Now it's time to add our image module to column 2. So I'm going to save this, click this plus button and search for my image module, select it. So now I need to upload my image. So I'm going to click anywhere on this area here, and now we can find our image. So I'm going to select my image right now, click upload an image. So that's looking great. So if you want to use this same image, I have a link in the post which you can go to and download it. In fact, this is in our layout pack. So if you download the layout pack, all those images will be added onto the media library. So that makes it easier for you to find this image. Okay, so what we need to do next now is to go to the spacing. So I'm going to click on the design tab, click on spacing, and over here we need to add a custom margin of 100 to the top. And then, as we normally do, we come over here to this little icon here to adjust our tablet view and our smartphone view. Click on tablet, and we're going to set this to 50 for the tablet. And we're also going to use the same value for the smartphone. Great. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my desktop tab. So as you can see, this looks really great. It's a great improvement in terms of design, and this is how you can creatively use all these section dividers. Now it's time to move on to section divider style number 2. So let's go ahead and save this. So one thing you may notice here before we go into the next example is we can see that this is not a perfect circle. Now this is because I am using a very large monitor. So what you may want to do is to go in and make some adjustments and make sure that this looks the way you want it to look. So to save time, instead of going through all these steps, what we're going to do is we're going to clone this section and then make some adjustments so that we come up with different styles. So over here, I'm just going to come and go to the top and click this button here, and this just clones everything. So now that I have that set, what we need to do first of all is to change the divider style. So I'm going to click this gear icon, and we're going to go into design, click on dividers. So the style that we're going to use is slightly different. So I'm going to click here on this drop down and choose our style. So I'm going to scroll all the way down here, and the style we're going to go with is this one right here. So you can see just by clicking that, this has changed how things look on our page, which is fantastic. Now we just need to change our divider height. So I'm going to come here, and right now it says to 600. In fact, we might as well just leave it at 600. And let me just double check and see what we have here on the tablet. So this should be 500. So let's change this to 500. And then for the smartphone, we're going to change this to 400. So, okay, 400 is fine. So as you can see here in this preview, this looks really quite nice because it's consistent with these 3 tablet views, which is great. And then if I come back over here on the desktop, now, as I mentioned, you can always adjust this if you want and make sure that it shows a perfect circle. But in this case, I'm just going to leave it as it is. Okay, so let's go ahead and save, and then let's go ahead and create another style, which is style 3. So as we did before, I'm just going to come in here and duplicate this section like that. And then we're going to go into our section settings, click on design, dividers, and this time we are going to change our divider style. So I'm going to, again, like I did before, click on that. And then the style that we're going to choose is this one right here. So again, you can see how this is very creative. So you can change these sections and make them look the way you want. So again, the divider height needs to be changed, but in this case, it doesn't look too bad. So I'll just leave these values as they are. So 500 for the tablet and 400 for the smartphone is perfect. And you can always take a look here in this preview to see if that's the design that you want to have. So these are the final designs. So I'm just going to go ahead and save, and then we're going to take a look at all these designs. Right, so our page is saved. I'm going to click on exit the Visual Builder. Okay, so let's take a look at our final design. So this is our first design, and this is our second one. So as we can see, we are using different section dividers to achieve different styles. So there you have it. Thank you all for watching. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, and do follow us on our social media platforms. By doing so, you'll be notified every time we release new tutorials and when we go live. Until next time, thanks for watching, and see you soon.